Okay, welcome back. So actually, I didn't like the part that relates to humiliating learners, because our role as teachers is not just to help them, pass specific course. We actually have to encourage them, deal with them in an innocent way, because this will actually motivate them to learn. Because actually, motivation plays an important role in the process of learning. So I actually felt that I'm in the Middle Ages. You remind me of the fairy tales, right? So, but I have to say that the strategies you have presented in this, in this session actually can be very helpful for learners, for adult learners to avoid anxiety. But how about teachers? Is there anything in your research that is related to how to encourage teachers to, I don't know the word actually, the suitable word, but to motivate their students rather than demotivate them? Because humiliation and learning actually do not mix. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Well, great question. Yeah. Well, we asked. We also spoke with several teachers, and fortunately for me, I am university deans and presidents Southeast Asia. Thailand uses a transmission learning system. The teacher is the all-knowing, the be-all, the end-all of education, and the teacher pours knowledge, well, not knowledge, information into the students. So culturally, the students are not encouraged to ask questions, because if the students ask questions, and if the teacher feels threatened, then in Thai they say it's like twisting the threads of a screw. It's making an ee sound. So culturally, the teacher runs their classroom almost like sorry, I'm translating to English. Almost like a mafia style system. I'm not, or itipon. And so the students, they're not encouraged to speak freely. They're like a frog under a coconut shell. And when they, actually, your question is so beautiful, because I am the co-editor of a book, and we're actually bringing this volume together, and it is about critical pedagogy. And we found in Thailand that if critical thinking, if motivation is encouraged, then the society will squash that. The government will investigate the school if they promote critical thinking. Like Satit Thammasat Secondary School, they're promoting critical thinking, they're promoting freedom, they're promoting critical pedagogy, and the government does not, they actually not only not encourage, but they try to squash those type of free thinkers. So
recording in progress.
Oh, good. I'm not going to say anything now that we're being recorded. Yeah. So, but we have chapters from Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, Cambodia, Laos, and the education systems where the teacher is superior and the students are inferior, you're only going to see demotivation, you're going to see humiliation, you're going to see these things. And if you look at the Education First ratings, the Education First English proficiency ratings, just see which countries are at the bottom, and you will see which education systems are more demotivating. So,
Yeah, sounds fair enough. But actually, apart from the, country policy concerning, policy that is related to education, I think teachers can be, encouraged or learn how to, motivate their students and avoid humiliation, right? This is my own point of view. Maybe,
Yeah.
you can take the lead and arrange for workshops to enlighten teachers in Thailand. Because as someone who has such experience, I think you can manage it and promote the idea of respecting students and motivate them, not to demotivate them via insulting or, such bad, methods that you have mentioned in your presentation. So you can go for it. Why not?
well,
And
See?
we can help you actually. We can help you in conducting these workshops. Yeah. Apart, I'm not talking about the government policy.
Yeah, I
No,
know.
I'm talking about, how to, put teachers and students in on the right track. This is what I have in mind. It will be just a kind of, not say not instructions, but guidelines. You as teacher, it's like, a rule description. Okay? So teachers have to do 1, 2, 3, 4 in classes.
right.
Students have to follow 1, 2, 3, 4 in classes. And by doing this, I think the learning or learning situation in Thailand will be certainly improved one day. This is what I have in mind. But just to investigate the phenomena and deal with this without offering, some guidelines or solutions to the problem. This is not good. We have to participate as educators. We actually have to, to help those students. This is what I have in mind. We don't have to, say, okay, this is a phenomena, and sorry, we not do anything towards it. We have actually to give them a hand as we you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, I have your answer in writing, but I know Dr. Sidget, he had his hand up. Sorry, and then he put his hand up three times.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Doctor.
Go ahead.
Jason?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Perrodin, anxiety in relation to speaking in foreign language, I think is affected by many factors. One of them can be the extent of exposure. When we talk about the extent of the language they are learning, whether the second or foreign language, it is related to generation. It is different across generations. My first son, for example, is quite different from my generation, which is much less exposed to English. My sons are more exposed to English language through social media. Therefore, their anxiety are much less than what we experience to an extent. Second, it can be related to the social class. Because when we talk about social class, we talk about whether the generation can afford nowadays IT, information and technology. I would like you to comment on this based on your experience, based on the data you collected, Dr. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, so very quickly, we looked at different social structures. The participants in our first study, just like the participants in our second study has nearly 2,000 participants, by the way. Yeah. So we looked at different social classes, different education backgrounds, different provinces, different areas, different exposures to English, people from international programs, English programs. We looked at as many different demographic scenarios as we could. We wanted to have we wanted to increase the validity of the study and the generalizability of the study. So we looked at all of these different areas. And yes, the young people are exposed to English more than Generation Z is exposed more than Generation X or Y, of course, yeah. But still, we looked at the source. And the source, even with the secondary students that we spoke to, the source of anxiety is still the same. It's still the same from the 1980s until now. It's still the same. So the education setting hasn't changed. So all right, okay. I hope I answered your question, Dr. Marissa. Yes, Marissa. Hello.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Good day.
Yes.
And thank you very much, David, for a wonderful presentation. And I really learned a lot. Yeah, especially when you summarized the reason why students have this kind of anxiety. And then
Salamat.
you really, salamat po. And especially the negative, about the negative criticism. I agree with that because I still, just like Yasser, when he mentioned that it
ไปในช่อง
reminded
แชท
me
แล้ว
of
นะ
his
สุริยา
past. It's same to me but it's not in English, but it's in math
ถ้า
now.
เขา
So when
Yes.
I was,
ถามฉันก็ตอบแท
yeah,
นฉันด้วย
especially math, so it reminded me of those experiences anyway. So and then also the Sigit Sensei or Dr. Sigit also, it reminded me of the social class because this is also very important. And then another thing is that when you mentioned about the negative criticism, and then you studied about the reason why, so the reason why they have this kind of criticism, and then you mentioned about the bullying. Yeah, so bullying. So one of the stresses and the anxiety, the source of anxiety of the students, is the teacher itself. Yeah. So how they treat the students is a very very
อาจารย์นงรัก
special factor to consider. Yeah,
เขาให้
because
ถาม
and another, it's not only to
ถามเลย
add
นะคะ
because in Japan it's different environment, I guess. Of
คำถาม
course,
ของอาจารย์นงรักพ่วงไปกับ
bullying
คำถามของ
probably
ย
is
โส
hidden
ธราด้วย
behind. It's kind of hidden, but the more important thing in Japan is
ว่านงรักแต่ยโสธรา
part of negative criticism is the examination. Yeah. So exam. So that is one of the factor that the Japanese students are
ทัศนคติ
considering to be one of the
ที่
factors
เรา
that
จะ
is
ต้อง
very
มีความเข้าใจ
impactful in learning English. Yeah. So for
ใน
me,
การเรียนภาษา
because I saw it in Japan,
ต้องมีทัศนคติอย่างไร
that we teachers have this special role to
เพื่อที่จะเรียนภา
motivate the
ษาได้ดี
students, as you mentioned, Dr. Yasser a while ago. So that's why I try this, the empathy. Yeah? So we have to create a very special environment for the students. Yeah, this kind of family environment. It is our role as a teacher to give this family-like environment with the students in order for them to feel that the classroom itself is an extension of their family, so that they will be able to lessen their stress. Yeah. So I think this one is, I think, the only thing I can share, because you mentioned, Dr. Yasu, that, David can give this kind of ways in order to lessen the stress of the students. Maybe that is also one to be considered, if ever, there will be a workshop, for the teachers to, for the teachers to change a bit their style of teaching the students. And one is, I think, to create a very good environment, an effective environment for the students. Thank you. That's all. Sorry, I just want only to add, David, I'm very
Yes.
interested, I'm interested about your cheat sheet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I really
Well-
want to see that cheat sheet. I might use that one. Yeah, because do you have this kind of thing? I mean, a file of that in order for us to know what is this all about?
No, actually,
Or-
actually, before the coronavirus pandemic, I would travel all around Mindanao, Visayas, and Luzon. I've touched most of the 7,107 islands. And, I've been exposed to most of the 162 languages spoken, and that's not including the ethnic diversities. But when I travel around the Philippines, when I speak very literal. I don't speak figuratively because I'm not a native Filipino speaker. So one time, I learned how to say beautiful, delicious, and juicy. It's talking about food, like beautiful morning, maganda umaga, beautiful evening, maganda gabi, makatas, masarap. And, so I wanted to taste some fruit. And, fruit is juicy, makatas, right? No, masarap, sorry. And tikman is taste. So I asked someone if I can taste the juicy fruit. But asking someone if you can taste their juicy fruit, it's actually sort of a euphemism. And, I didn't know that. So, when I try to speak another language, if I make a mistake, most of the time the native speaker of that language, they're very gentle. They're like, oh, that's funny. But earlier I alluded to a reason why I can't read and write Thai very well. You ask about a cheat sheet. Yes, I have to make a cheat sheet because I never formally learned how to read or write Thai. I took Thai classes several times, and every time I made a mistake, the teacher would become indignant or furious. So I would just leave the class, I'm an adult. Don't speak to me like I'm like that, So I haven't taken Thai classes because I haven't found a comfortable environment. So, but the cheat sheet, I just write phrases that I need. Or, if I have to make a speech in Thai, I will write it. I will write the speech I will write it phonetically using English letters. So, yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah, because if we can pattern your cheat sheets, probably we can also share it with our students here, and then we have this kind of pattern how to use the cheat.
No, there's no pattern. It's just as necessary. Yeah.
Okay, so we can probably just use the term cheat sheet.
Cheat
and then
sheet.
let
I love it.
student- Just
Yeah.
let the students write anything they want to write.
That's right. Yeah. Cheat sheet.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
I love the cheat sheet.
yeah. Well, I see eye to eye with Dr. Melissa, actually. But you know what, Dr. David, I feel that learning a foreign language, I mean, whether it is English or Thai or any language in Thailand, is a big problem. This is what I have in mind now. And it's awful to know that in such countries, people are not encouraged to learn a foreign language. So I think you educators have to find a way in order to overcome this, I say, problem. It's not just a problem, but it is a fatal problem actually. Yeah.
Well, the British Council came in and they trained 20,000 teachers just recently, before the coronavirus. They trained them on how to different tactics to teach English, and I'm not sure exactly how successful it was because there hasn't been a full study of the program. But you mentioned about implementing different teaching techniques to be more encouraging, more motivating. But that kind of goes against the grain. You know, there's who did a study in the early 2000s, 2002, 2003, and they found that in countries that have transmission type education systems like China or Thailand, that anything from the outside, any outsider type teaching techniques or pedagogies like communicative language teaching or CLIL, they're not accepted in that teaching system. And they said that that although these methodologies are effective, they're only as effective to the extent that the teachers and students are willing to accept and implement these methodologies or pedagogies in good faith, and that these pedagogies are often not accepted because they go against the cultural standards. So when you have a transmission type system to where, you know, the teaching is very one-sided, the students are afraid to ask questions, you know, they're afraid of retaliation, it's difficult for outsiders to come in and change that system. And, you know, I mean, since the 1950s, since the 1980s, for sure, there have been many systems that were implemented, but they just don't work very well, you know, because they're kind of against the cultural structure. So I understand, you know, I'm not trying to play the devil's advocate here, but one of the papers that I am writing right now, I'm actually writing a paper right now that says after 30 years of exploration, nothing has changed. So the title of my paper is "After 30 Years, It Is Time to Stop." Yeah, that's the title. So, you know, it's going to take a top-down approach. It's going to take someone, you know, at the very top to decide, hey, we need to develop the people. And everyone knows that, you know. The grassroots, starting at the teacher level, yeah, there's not really enough people implementing these type of strategies. It has to start at the top. So, sorry.
Yeah, unfortunately. Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. David. We really enjoyed this wonderful, informative presentation. And
We have a
so
hand.
which actually, yeah, you gave us a complete picture about what is happening in Thailand nowadays and for the next 30 days, as you have mentioned so far. So thank you so much. And if anyone has a question, feel free to ask. Mr. David is here to answer all our questions, kindly, of course. So,
We have a hand raised. Yeah.
yes, sure. Go ahead.
David, thank you very much for the useful knowledge. Okay, I am in the education system. The big problems, I agree with you, with everybody, is the big problem for us is the teacher. You know, I hate most English language for more than 30 years. I myself, I hate most. But one day, I see that it is very important, it's very useful for us if we know more than 2 languages. Okay, so from now, since then, I study hard in English. But it's still, you know, still right now, I feel like the government inject a lot of budget to improve English. Okay, I am the Dean of the Faculty of Humanities and Social Science at Perrodin University. We have a lot of budget, a lot of money to improve English for our students, but it still not achieve the goal. So if, okay, I think, David, you are still in Thailand more than 10 years, right? If you are the government or you are the prime minister, please, you know, please advise or please what is your policy, because we spend a lot of money in Thailand for develop for to improve English for our students, but it's still not, I can tell you that it's still not achieved the goal. You know, when I teach English for lawyers, my students, you know, someone, if I ask them a lot, you know, what does it mean? What does it mean? I can't tell me, okay, say hi. They will run away, won't in, you know. They do not attend the class because they are afraid of answering my question. I think it's still in the, you know, in the society, in the you know, in the environment of our education. So, David, please, how can Thai government to overcome
It's
this
easy.
problem?
Easy. One